One more month. We've got one more month left in this roller coaster of a year.
Yes, we do. It's either going to be the fastest month that we've had since this whole thing or the slowest. I'm not sure what I've decided yet, but
yeah, like
we'll see here.
The first 6 months since all the lockdown stuff went by super fast for me. And the last like 2 or 3 have been, no, reverse that. Sorry. We're super slow. The last couple months have been very quick.
Dude, sitting in quarantine was exhausting. I was just like, it's like watching the second hands tick away. I was like, all right, let's go.
Right.
So now that like things have a little bit opened up, even though
starting to shut back down in some places.
Yeah, it still feels like it's moving a little bit quicker. So I'll take it.
Be Christmas before we know it. What's the beer on the menu tonight?
It's actually a new one. It's a Rheingeist brew from Cincinnati. It's called Hoppy Holiday Ale.
So you lost me at Hoppy. Good. I love Rheingeist.
It's pretty good.
You lost me at Hoppy. Can't do it.
Wow. It's not. You're not drinking it, so
exactly. Well, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and with me, as always, is
Evan Worrell.
And before we get into today's episode with today's guest, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, depending on where you listen to us, or all four, whatever you choose to do. Like the video on YouTube if you like what we're doing. Leave a comment if you want. Hit us up on Facebook or Instagram at Aged Out Podcast to never miss an update about the podcast. Head over to patreon.com/agedoutpodcast to support us financially in any way if you would like. And last but not least, we've partnered recently, if you haven't heard, with Lone Star Percussion to provide you all with some savings around the holidays. So if you are looking to get some percussion equipment, head over there, sticks, pads, heads, cymbals, whatever. You can save $10 on any order of $50 or more using the code AGEDOUT. It'll be in the video and podcast description at checkout. So now that we got that out of the way, Evan, you want to take it, and then we'll get rolling.
Yeah, man, certainly. I think we've referenced the 6 degrees of separation or the 2 degrees of separation that exists in this activity several times, but that's kind of how we've gotten connected with this guest. He had checked out some other episodes, super awesome that he's checking out our content, really appreciative of that, and knows a couple of dudes we've done some podcasts with, one of the more recent ones with Lewis Reniger from Blue Knights. If you haven't checked that out, go give it a listen. But yeah, a man who's seen many, many world-class ensembles, front row and center. Without further ado, we welcome DCI Judge, teacher, educator, Mr. Mike Davis, otherwise known as Mike D. What's up, man?
What's up, brothers? How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well, man. Doing well. We're just taking it day by day. Glad to have you with us. We really appreciate you taking the time to just get to know you. This is the first time I think we've ever talked, even though before the podcast we were just talking about we've all three had pretty close proximity to each other. Mike's been on the field critiquing ensembles that Mike and I are in, Fantini and I. But yeah, it's good to meet you, man. How's life out in St. Louis? You're in St. Louis, right?
Yes. Great to meet you guys too. Yep. Like you guys were just talking about, man, freaking COVID, not knowing what's next. And I think, Mike, you were saying like it's slow. It's really slow, and maybe it's starting to speed up. And then as soon as you start to speed up, you get kicked right back in the butt, man. And just, it's crazy. Never seen anything like this before.
I saw today DCI made kind of a little bit of announcement about some showcase stuff they're trying to do in August. Some groups have come out, said, yeah, we're in. Some groups have come out, said, nah, we're out. We'll see you in 2022. I saw BD and Vanguard, I guess, made that decision. They posted on Facebook that, hey, we're going to do some stuff for 2021, but we're not going to tour until 2022, which unfortunately I think a lot of us saw the writing on the wall for that, but still sucks nonetheless.
Yeah, man. I couldn't imagine, what those groups have to go through, in making those decisions. And obviously there's a lot of money involved, and getting buses on the road and all that craziness, man. I envy those people for what they have to go through. So I would imagine whatever decisions those guys are making are in the best interests, and hopefully we can get back to doing this again here soon.
I hear that, man. I hear that. I'm sure we'll probably talk about this some more too, just as we go, and how COVID has affected the activity, and maybe some trends that we'll see going down the stretch that'll change it for maybe even the better. But before we get into that, man, for the people that don't know, just give a little bit of a background, maybe like how you got into the activity, from St. Louis, kind of kind of where you got your ball rolling.
Right. Obviously, like everybody else, I was in a pretty competitive high school marching band, and actually we were competitive in all facets of our program, jazz band, orchestra. We had a director who kicked our butts, man, on the daily, and only accepted excellence. And he's one of my heroes to this day. He was a great man, and he's still with us. But I tell you what, his name was Bob Oges, and everybody in our program just loves him to this day, and great mentor. And then after high school, I went and got with the local drum corps over in Illinois. It's about 45 minutes away, called the Black Knights. And basically, I was in there last year in '89.
You had a pretty funny story how you got hooked up with that, didn't you? Weren't you just like checking them out?
Yeah. I went to a rehearsal, and you know how they were a smaller drum corps, and I went to a rehearsal, and they were just like, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, I mean, that's how open class teams usually go. Or it was A60 at that time, but you know, hey, what are you doing? You know, we need somebody to fill in the pit here, and you know, I was like, I don't have any money. And you know, they were like, that's okay, just come on in, and you know, like we'll get you set up, and yeah, the rest is history there. We were okay, you know, not the greatest, but we worked hard, and you know, but we were seeing so many great groups back then. You know, there's a lot of groups that aren't around now, you know, Americanos and Limited Edition and Northern Aurora, just all these groups that were around that you know, that were kicking our butts. But it was a really cool education to see those groups all the time. And it's where I saw my first all-girl drum line. I saw the Bandettes, and they were absolutely amazing. I thought I didn't know that was a thing, and so my eyes were getting opened up to just a whole new world, man. It was amazing. And then of course, you know, we were seeing all the bigger teams, you know, Madison and Star and Cavaliers and all those groups. And so, you know, obviously we were going on first in some of those shows. So, you know, we get back to the truck, man, we pack our stuff up, and here we are, you know, watching, you know, Madison or Cavaliers or Star, Phantom, you know, and just, it was, I wasn't in those groups, but, you know, like, it was the best education because, you know, you were hearing what the staffs were saying in those groups, and just really able to take it all in. And maybe even if we got lucky, we'd be able to, you know, share a housing site with them or something like that and watch them rehearse, or, you know, so it was a great education to be a part of with that. And then after that, man, I just started teaching and writing and for local high schools around here, and just like everybody else, you know, you're just honing your skills. And, you know, I remember writing my first book, and it was like, no white left on the paper, you know, like just.
It sounds like a Lee Bettis book.
Yeah, man, just like writing everything, you know, because you're so inspired by, you know, watching, you know, all these great groups. And we didn't have indoor back then, but, you know, like, you know, it just, you know, you wanted to emulate those guys. And so, yeah, we were right. I was writing everything I could write. And, you know, and then you go to a show and some judge would be like, yeah, the percussion parts really don't fit right here with this swing tune. And we're playing all this cheese and heritage stuff. And like, it's just, you know, but yeah, man, you live and learn. And just through the years, just honing my skills and being around a lot of great people and getting the chance, band directors giving me a chance to do what I was doing, and there's a lot of great guys out there that really helped me out, you know, and letting me just be me and finding myself. And then in 2000, I started judging for Drum Corps Midwest. I got in the activity or the judging activity by two great people, Harvey Wingo and Joe Smith. Harvey's no longer with us, but he really was instrumental in helping me get involved in judging. And then after that, I've been judging ever since. And this would have been my 20th year, but COVID decided to ruin that. So we then, you know, fell in love with the indoor activity. It was a blast. My first indoor championships to go to was 1998, and just bam, another thing, just getting my eyes opened up to Mission Viejo and Bear Creek from Colorado and Ponderosa from Colorado and Mesquite. And just I remember the first time
too, right?
Black Knights and who else? It was just so fresh.
Dartmouth.
And I remember Dartmouth. Seeing those groups for the first time. I remember seeing Mystique at a regional. The group that I was teaching at the time was Francis Al North High School, and we were just finding out what this was because we were still doing the what they used to call the Spartan Fest in Chicago. It was at the high school that Ferris Bueller was filmed at, and they used to have this indoor percussion show there every year, man. It was great, but it was on a stage. You know, it hadn't gotten to a gym yet, and then here comes WGI, and they put it into a gym, and so all right, let's try this. And then I remember seeing Mystique for the first time, man, and it was just they were flying around the floor, and they were loud, and it was just I was like, you know, it's like meeting your love for the first time. You know, you're like, I love you. You know, like marry me right now. You know, like, and it was just like it was wonderful, man. And I was hooked. And then we went to championships and just saw these great groups and the innovation that was available to everybody. It was amazing. And then we got some local high schools involved in it and helped kind of nurture the local circuit around here. And then Paul Richardson and myself started Gateway in 2004. And then I started Freedom in 2009, and the rest is history.
You just went through a lot of awesome stuff that I kind of touched base on too. Just to go back to you talking about like the exposure that you got while you were on tour. Mm-hmm. I find that is so important too. Like if people get the opportunity, sometimes you could think it's maybe boring to go watch people rehearse, but I always just loved that because then you get to hear exactly what they're telling the kids, what they're looking for, and it really opens your eyes up to so much stuff. The shows are great, love the shows, but to hear a drum corps staff and the way that they approach their rehearsal and like the nuance and what they're looking for can be so eye-opening. And I would say that 85% of the stuff that I teach to kids now, whether it's in lessons or indoor or high school marching band, is me regurgitating things that I've heard because I've learned what to look for and where to look for. And the other 15% is just kind of like my own like pedagogy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, just being able to learn from so many different people and getting that exposure and sitting in a lot and just being like, oh, this is what clean really sounds like. I thought we were clean, but this is what clean really sounds like.
Yeah. What's the old saying? If you're not stealing, you're not trying. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Same thing for a lot of us. I think if we all had a big marching instructors convention and we all just sat around and like, how'd you get started? You know, everybody would say the same thing you just said. You know, like I was watching so and so and I picked up this from them. And I mean, the rehearsal setting is what every kid should be able to see.
This nowadays. Whole conversation just takes me back to the podcast we did with Pete Sappinen. He put it best, in my opinion, of just like, it's tribal knowledge. Like we're literally just passing all this knowledge down generation to generation. Like we're a tribe, a small niche community of marching percussionists and stuff. And we just pass it down each generation. It's all regurgitating things that previous guys and girls in the activity have told you, or the person that taught you was told by them, or it's just one thing after another. It's not really centralized either. It's all just word of mouth, kind of an experiential knowledge.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll also add something to that. Also with the kids, if I had students that would go off in March and they would come back and then, I'd be like, hey man, like, how are you guys doing this thing? Or, or whatever. Or they would come back and like, oh, this is how we're moving the stick. And, like, this is what we talk about sound quality. And then, I remember an ex-student came back one year and he marched a top 12 corps and he came back and he had talked about posture, about how you stand behind the drum and things like that. And I had never talked about that before, just like, wow, I didn't know, like, yeah, of course, standing up straight and all the rest of that, but you look good, you feel good, you play good, these things. And I was just blown away by a small thing like that. But they were getting preached, and then you go back and you watch that line, and you go, yep, I totally get it. Yep, that's so, yeah, listening to the dudes that come back, because they're spending 10 hours a day, learning all that knowledge is a cool thing as well. Learning from the young guys I think I might have heard Scott Johnson say that once, it's like, listen to the young guys, like they have things to say too, and they bring back all the latest and the greatest cool stuff and information. So yeah,
if you want to know what's hip and what's trendy, yeah, you can for sure like check out what so-and-so's doing, or like, oh, check out this new split that so-and-so wrote, or oh, check out what this quad around doing, or whatever. I think I listened to another podcast you were doing, and you were talking about the first time you learned what like a hand-to-hand was, and I had a similar reaction. I was like, hand-to-hand, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're just playing... They're playing like, because there for a while it was just like, oh, the split singles like between 1 and 2 were like popular. Now it's like no, they're in between the alternate sticking. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Tommy Rome, I got to give him credit for that, because he was the one that brought that back when he had marched to Summer, or he had gone to X and came back, and it was just like you, like, what? What is that? Okay, and then he
does it sound good?
Yeah, like, wow, that's the new thing. Okay, great. I think it's a little overutilized these days, but
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
But people get used to the trends. Like, yeah.
At least though, if you're staying up with it, you know what to recognize. Obviously, you as a judge, like
right,
oh, I know to look for it. I'm gonna give credit for it.
Yeah. And I'm thankful to him for giving me that knowledge on that, because I would have never known. Mostly it would have been like, woo, yeah, bass, that sounded great. Like, like, I don't know what that was, but,
It's either even or it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was an even rhythm.
Good.
Whatever.
Yeah. No, that's true, man. Take as much knowledge as you can get from whatever sources. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm not going to cut you off at all. So you found a gateway. That was 2004. And then you were there for how many years?
2004 and 2005. And then came back in 2008 and 2009.
Gotcha. And then obviously started at Freedom, which I believe, if I remember from what Lewis was telling us, that started in A class. Is that correct?
Actually, we started in Worrell class.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
All right.
I tell you what, man, advice for people out there that want to get into this activity and want to start an indoor group. Take a look in the mirror first and really, really analyze what you're ready for. I tell you what, man, I think we maybe bit off a little bit more than we could chew right away. But at the time, the activity was also different.
For sure.
I don't know.
There
about
were probably
today,
like 16 or 17 world-class groups instead of 35.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we had some kids that could drum, and it's like, hey, let's just dive into the pool. But we started out in world class and then stayed there for a couple of years and really got our butts kicked, and then decided, let's do the open class thing, and stayed there for a couple of years, and just recently back in 2019 went back to world class.
Nice. And then, because you talked about like they got their first medal, I guess, when he was there. Is that right? Yeah, in 2017.
Nice. The other thing, man, about starting an indoor group, and you guys know this because you teach it, but there's so many things that you don't see, so many trials and tribulations that you just, you can really get caught up into what you see out there on the floor, but what you're not seeing are those behind the scenes issues that often creep up. I remember one year, as groups do, we rented a truck and we loaded the truck and man, we were, I was driving the truck and got right outside the school, and the truck was the engine light was coming on, and I said, okay, it's gonna be fine. I got back in we loaded the truck. I got back in it and started headed up the highway, and the truck started going nuts, man, and just freaking out, and just the engine was bad, and like had to go back to the rent-a-car place, the rental truck place, and get another truck, back the one truck up to the other truck and transfer everything over. And, it's just like, people, don't see things like that. They don't see all the craziness that
behind the curtain.
And they always happen.
The worst times.
Yeah, the worst times. When you're standing behind the curtain and the certain thing won't work. It's been working all this time until now. Like, what the hell just happened? I don't
Dude, the
know.
little electronic ninjas that just work up there. You had it working in the lot, and then you plug it in the arena, and all of a sudden, like, main stage won't boot up or something.
Right, yeah. And or you got a flat tire, or the truck won't start, or, the bus driver is late, or, we had a bus driver. Yeah, go ahead.
The many woes of independent groups. It's like, a housing site fell through, and we're supposed to rehearse in 6 hours.
Exactly, man. In 2017, we had a housing site that fell through like 2 days before we were getting ready to go to Dayton. And those are the things that, you're proud of the kids, and, you do this for them, and you're always really proud of the what they can achieve and stuff like that, and the staff is happy. But man, I tell you what, what we don't have a housing site 2 days before we're getting ready to go to the show. Those are all the things that if anybody wants to call me up, I'll be glad to give you all those stories before you start an indoor group.
I think that perspective is one thing that Fantini and I have tried to navigate as we do this podcast in general. Obviously, we critique groups and call things as we see it, but I think it's always done at the perspective of we recognize the hard work everywhere.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that we're not going to
100%
say our opinions, but
sure.
I would never belittle any group in any class in any circuit about what they're doing or trying to do. But there are just challenges, like logistical nightmares that I remember one time for an independent group I was teaching here in Kentucky. We were headed off, and somebody hadn't fastened the gate to the trailer all the way, and whoever's driving the truck takes off, and a set of vibes just rolls off the back, falls on the ground, basically disintegrates, and you're like, we got to figure out how to put this back together.
Yeah, how does this even happen? Yeah, this has never happened before. Why now? Yeah, it's just crazy.
Something I want to comment on real quick before we get too far from it is you mentioned with Freedom, you all started out in World, dropped down to Open for a little bit, then made the jump back up to World again. That's something that I think is super commendable, because you have to be completely honest with yourself to say, okay, we tried this level. We're not here yet. Our talent level's not here yet. Our abilities are not there. Design maybe, whatever it may be. We need to drop down, figure our stuff out, try to build off the foundation we have, and then try to get back to the big show, if that makes sense. And I've seen so many groups that have just continued to beat their head against the concrete wall of world class. Just stay world, stay world, stay world. It's clearly you could probably be super competitive for a while if you went down to Open, and winning is fun. And you're probably going to be able to attract better talent to help you make that jump and be more competitive back in World if you're willing to be honest with yourself. Because I've always been a believer of you have to be completely honest with yourself about what you know or how good you actually are before you can improve. And it's you got to be honest. So I just give all the credit in the world for being willing to do that back and forth and understand what we need to do to succeed in the long run.
Yeah. That's very true. I agree with all that. I think, for us, well, I'll just say this. There was when this activity first got started, the WGI admin team was, I remember when Gateway because we started out in open as well, and we got promoted to world class. And at first it was just like, oh boy, you know what I mean? Like, wow, really? And they were like, nope, you guys are cool. You can be there, and we think you can hang there, and blah blah blah. And they were right at the time. And there used to be this push to get groups in the world class. And I feel like, as a director, I can speak frankly that I think that's a little lost. And you know, I think, you know, right now you probably have some teams that are like, world class, oh my God, no. You know, like, it's, yeah, okay, but, you know, that it used to be a big push for that. You know, like it you know, I remember those guys saying, you're like, this is the class you want to be in. You know, Saturday night is the show you want to be in. And I think it's maybe gotten away from that a little bit. I think some groups tend to write for a certain class when I think they clearly have the talent to be in the next class. You know, we could probably do a whole, yeah, I'm not saying they're doing that. I wouldn't blame them for that, but it's like, you know, clearly you're walking right up to the line and without going over it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not a diss against anybody or anything like that. I remember what it started out with, and then what it looks like today is, and this is my opinion, but
no, I feel that.
Yeah,
like if somebody's like, I don't even know of a group, but if you're first, second, third, second, like in like open class or A class, like year in and year out, it's like, all right, you probably have built the consistency to like give yourself the nudge and like push yourself as a design, as an education staff to like whatever kids that you're recruiting from in your area of your geographical location, you can offer them more if you just push a little more. I get that
right.
For sure.
And I think the other thing is, if you're looking at going to world class, you know, okay, maybe you're not competing against RCC. You know, don't think like that. You know, like, you know, those guys have been where they are for a long time. X and Mystique and all those guys. You know, I'm not looking at them because they're great at what they do and they have talent and they have the draw to design great shows. And I think you have to look at certain tiers, you know, to and work yourself up into that level, you know, before you know, really try to take, or don't bite off, you know where you are is what I'm saying, you know, like know what you can handle. And I think for us, and there's been some disagreements, but I think for us, I think we were writing for that class. I think when we talked about ideas, we were talking about world-class ideas. You know what I mean? And things that could be at that level. Maybe we couldn't drum it as well, or we couldn't perform it as well, but that's what we're thinking on. And so we might as well go and do that thing, you know, and give the kids that experience there.
I think the tier thing you said hit the nail on the head. Like if you just started a group, or you just bumped from open to world or A to open or whatever, maybe medaling the first year is not the appropriate goal you should set. Right. Maybe it's let's finish within this bracket, or let's finish with this bracket, and then after that year, the next year going into that same class, be like, all right, let's try to jump like 2 spots. Let's try to jump 3 spots. And that's the way you build consistency year to year.
Yeah.
You're not setting your kids up for an expectation that you're not going to be able to uphold. Like, hey guys, we're going to try to medal this year. It's like, well, probably not going to happen. So you're setting them up for disappointment. But we're going to be really good. We're going to be competitive. We're going to shoot for like this goal and see where we fall.
Yeah. When we medaled in 2017, we didn't know we were going to medal. You know what I mean? I think some groups can walk into that weekend going, yeah, we're pretty confident about being in the top 3. And actually that made it a little sweeter because we didn't know, you know, like, it was like, we were so surprised by it too. We were just like, we just medaled, I think, you know, like we weren't ready for it. And so I think that made it a lot sweeter. And for me, I'll always remember that. But yeah, knowing where you are and knowing where you what you can hang with is, and then like you said, move up, from there, and your recruiting gets a little stronger, and yeah, then it should be, hopefully the system should work out for you.
Absolutely.
But I do think some groups need to be up a class here.
Would you like to name names?
No,
I'm
maybe
just
off
kidding.
the record, but
No,
it's like, oh God, okay, I'll name one group, and I think those guys could have been, maybe it was a year that, what's the Vigilantes?
From Texas?
Yeah, from Texas. I think they won open class one year, and I remember watching them in finals, and like I heard their bass break, and it was like all the crazy splits, and it was marvelous. And I was just like, what is this doing here? Like, why is this down here? It just doesn't need, they would be 10th, or ninth in tonight. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just, I know those guys, and I kid with those guys on the admin all the time, like, it's a hard choice to make. And I know you guys have to, you're really trying to deal with some things, but it's like, man, some of these groups, like, whoa, there's no way they're in that class. Yeah.
When are we going to bump Chino Hills to PIW? Like, come on. Anyway.
Hey, maybe this is the year to do it, right? Like, let's just do it. Let's see what's going to happen. Yeah. I would love to see that.
Is there a rule against that? Like, if the school just stops if they like transition it to an independent group and just say we're only going to have kids from, even you can let anyone you want to audition, then you just only take the same kids you were going to take for the high school group. Could you really do that? I feel like you could.
Yeah, I think that rule still exists. Of you could have like a community, or if you got a couple of high schools in the area, and
like
I know a couple of groups have done that down here. Mod Z from down here does a district drumline, and I think they won Independent A a couple times, or close a couple times. But
I would love to see where Chino Hills would fall on the independent world stage.
I think
it'd be clean.
Yeah.
I think there's some years that I've watched them and I go, 7th maybe.
Yeah, I've said the same thing for sure.
Yeah, 7th. Like, wow.
For
those
sure.
Kids are marvelous kids.
It's nuts.
It's
every
wild.
year.
It's a wild culture out there.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get back around to like the culture in high school here in just a second. Gonna segue a little bit. I know you talked about like doing trial judging and then getting into judging and starting 2000 in DCI circuit. When you were trial judging, did you get like your tapes like that you made to go back and listen to?
Well, sorry to sound old here, but that's when we had tapes. When we had cassette tapes. And
they still had tapes when I marched. In fact, Zach Schlicker has for 11 years now failed to convert our Giants stadium tape to digital so that we can all hear it. And all he's ever talked about is how great it is. But
yeah, man, there's some nostalgia about cassette tapes, but yeah, we used to, bought the two. You go to Kmart and get 2 tape recorders, and you'd have your own Maxell or whatever, and then the tape that they gave you, and you just have them rubber band together, and I got a picture around here with me holding 2 tape recorders in my hand, and so yeah, it's not like today where they would put it on a website or something like that, and you could just go listen to it. But so you take that tape home, and I would be so excited, because I had that tape right then and there, right? I could play that in the car on the way home, or wait, when I got home that night, I could play it instantly. It was great. So, yeah, I listen to my tapes quite a bit. Yeah,
I'm sure. Like, just to go back and be like, all right, what did I say? What did I sound like? And to critique yourself, I'm sure that's how you get better as a judge, and just figure out like, oh, what I said there didn't really like maybe connect with the staff the way I meant it to, or was there a lot of that going on in your head?
No, and I don't know if you're like me, but I hate my voice on tape. I hate it.
I think everybody hates their own voice.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to go back and listen to these podcasts, but I force myself, so I try not to sound like an idiot.
I've become desensitized because I do all the post-production audio editing for these things and like cutting stuff in and out of the episode, and absolutely loathe my voice when I hear it on recordings, and I have to just like get past it and just say, all right, this is what I sound like. I just have to accept it. I got to listen to this whole hour of us talking and just deal with it. But it's interesting to have to do. It's for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is, but yeah, I would come home and listen to my tapes, and I probably could have said this, or I probably could have said that, or because when you first start trialing, they don't let you onto the field. Like you can go like maybe on the track or something like that. At that time, you could go on the track, but you couldn't go on the field and run around with anybody. But my first season of getting assignments, I'd take both tape recorders out there and just to be able to have that reference to go back to, and a souvenir. I'm actually looking at a box right now, and I have, I don't know, it looks like 500 tapes. Like,
oh my gosh.
Just like judging stuff and when I used to bootleg recordings at drum corps shows. But yeah, man, it's just a lot of material, and I have to get me a digital recorder and put all that stuff on there too. But yeah, just go back and just, I could have said this, and and then sometimes it'll be like, well, I was dodging the color guard at that time, so I really couldn't have said that. I couldn't have said anything there. But yeah, just trying to hone your skills and trying to basically just, the biggest thing is trying to find your voice and not to sound like somebody else. We can all listen to the greats out there, Jeff Prospery or Alan Christensen and those guys and try to emulate what they say. But the biggest thing is just really trying to find your voice.
I can hear some Prospery catchphrases in my head already. Just like with you saying that.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I remember listening to one of Christensen's tapes back early, and just kind of almost thinking that maybe I'd need to be like that, until somebody said, no, you need to be yourself, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, I remember listening to a couple of your tapes from when the summer, like we would get the tapes on the bus, like, all right, let's listen to the tape, hear what he has to say. And I always enjoyed it because it felt so genuine. Like we were talking about on the podcast, or before we started this podcast, sometimes like as a judge, it's good to get, I would say from my judging experience at local circuits, like kind of not lost in it, but just immersed in it, to where you're not saying too much, but even like just laughing at stuff. It's good. Like, that was awesome. And like, all right, yeah, let's reel it in. But that was great. So I always really appreciated that, because I felt like you would give it up and just be like, oh man, you guys are locked in there. And then you'd be like, check that out. Like, you almost don't have to say too much.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the biggest thing is, just to use you guys for an example, all you have to do is look in performers' faces and you see it, they know, that wasn't too good or whatever. And you just go, yeah, man, you guys, you're talented enough. I mean, these groups they all have talent in them. And if you're in a drum line like you guys are in, what's going on. You guys are all smart enough to, so I always looked at it as I'm just aiding you in knowing that was a little rough or whatever. And you guys will fix it tomorrow. And oftentimes it would be that way, like it would come back the next night and be like, yep, there it is. Cool. So, but I appreciate it, man. It's I always tried to make tapes for the kids, really, more than anything, more than for the staff. And when the staff comes in and they're like, we're going to play the tape for the kids, man, that was always a pretty cool thing to hear. And then,
no, you've
this will segue. Well, I was going to say, this will probably segue on what Mike wants to get to, but you were talking about tapes for the kids. And I think that what you guys have had as judges was just such a unique perspective and point of view, that when you're in the line, you just never heard it that way.
Right.
Maybe the staff would make some recordings of a run through, but when you're in full uniform, you can hear, like, especially if you're in a dome, the reverb off the dome or the stadium in the background, but it's like in front of us and we can hear it, and you're not just like talking over every single thing that we do.
Yeah.
Like, I love those tapes so much, and I will miss them going forward.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully.
Evan knew it. That's where I was going to go. I was
Go
going
ahead.
to ask. You mentioned, when you're trying to dodge the color guard, maybe I shouldn't critique that because I was trying to run for my life or whatever.
Right.
What's your, if you're okay getting into it, how do you feel about the judging changes, I guess, of being someone that's been involved for so long at this point? Do you think it's been a net positive? Do you think there's pluses and minuses? Like, what's your opinion on the judges no longer being up in the batter's face or out in the thick of things?
Well, I'll just start at 2019 since that's the year we just left off on. I think, a lot of the groups planned for that change, which was cool. We didn't have to go out there and run around with them. They were like, we're going to bring the drum line right up front to you, and you can hear everything from there. I'll be honest. Yeah, I miss it. You know what I mean? I don't make the rules, though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, we work for the drum corps, and that's the way it is. And the mandate comes down from them, and we have to be able to deal with it that way and then adapt to whatever they say. It's different. It's a lot different. I think for me, though, is I love spending time in front of the pit, so I'm okay with that. I think some of the things that front ensembles are doing are just amazing, and I think that's you don't see a lot of lot videos with front ensembles in them. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably something that should be, a thing, because those kids the techniques that they're displaying and just the virtuosity of things is just like, wow, so for me, I'm okay with that because I write for, not only just percussion sections, but I've been writing a lot of full band stuff lately. And so I look at it as kind of getting an education up front there too, so like, oh, that mallet choice, or that's a cool mallet choice, or wow, they're using these sounds or whatever. So not only are you analyzing what they're doing, but you're also like learning from what they're doing. So I don't have a problem with it in terms of just being up in front and really learning what all those great groups are doing. But yeah, I mean, there's always some small part of you that misses that connection, with
that's a good way to
with
put
the
it.
Guys in the back. Yeah. And you have I always love the groups that are talking to you, when you're out there with them, and they're like, what's up, and like I won't name one group, but I won't say who they are, but it's like they're in between their like third and fourth move, and they're the closer, and I'm getting ready to go walk back up to the front, and they're, don't go anywhere, hang back here, what's up, Mike D, stick around, like, all right, cool, like you don't I mean, like, you don't get that, or I'll just say, like, on the end of the show, at some point in time, the drum line's got to go in the back and do the thing and really support the drum corps and stuff like that, and big, and so, yeah, you miss that emotional connection. Like, man, sometimes kids are out there crying, and kids are out there smiling, and they're looking directly at you, and it's like, I'm giving it up. I'm giving everything I have for you right now. So, yeah, you miss that a little bit, when they're not, when you're not right in front of them. But
one of my favorite moments from our 2009 season is our finals tape. Crown in that show. We started. The drumline started the show behind the back sideline in the end zone. So like we were way back there. But JJ was back there with us, like just getting ready for us, like to start. But you can hear he turned his tape on a little early. And you can hear just our section leader, Sharif Reefer, just back there, just like yelling, and we're all yelling. He's like, I love you guys. And then like it's like we're just like, whoa, just like yelling, and then like 3 seconds later, it's like 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, and then we're off to the races. But like those kind of moments and stuff. And then like you're saying, like JJ being out there with us at the very end of the show. We were behind the core, but we're
Mm-hmm.
just out there just ramming and just like going hard.
Yeah.
We play the last note and we're all screaming. The crowd's got a
Yeah.
standing ovation. He's like yelling back at us, just like, good
Yeah.
job, good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And like those are moments that like I can mentally revisit. I can close my eyes and listen to that tape and just like see it like it was yesterday. So
Yeah, and you guys will have those moments, the newer kids, unless they change some more rules, but the newer kids won't have that connection, you know what I mean? So you guys are lucky, because you're able to. And I'm sure, like the staff's talking to you, like, he's going to be out here at this point, like we told him to be, or we're going to tell him to be out here at this time, and so you're already anticipating him being there with you, you know what I mean? And so it's just, yeah, those are great, cool moments, man. Again, I can listen to my tapes, and like, just, you can go back and listen to your tapes, it's like, yeah, I remember being in front of these guys at this particular point in time, and they're just yelling and screaming, and yeah, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
it's
so you
a
do
hype.
miss that. Yeah,
For
it
sure.
is. It is a hype for both. It's a hype. Like we have our stories too. You know what I mean? Like we go back and, especially like when you get back home after championships week and, some kid is like, so I saw you in front of blah, blah, blah. What'd you think, about so-and-so? And you're like, oh man, I was there at the end of the show and they were just giving it up. And my other funny thing, and I think, you Blue Coats guys were kind of more responsible for this type of thing, is the stuff that the crowd doesn't hear during count-offs.
Yeah, the vocals.
Yeah, we had at 12 in 12 at Blue Coats, we had some pretty interesting vocals that nobody ever really heard.
And see, I mean, I tell you what, there have been some times that I've been in front of groups and you'll be in mid-sentence and this thing will come out and you'll just be like, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're just like, it's like you just start laughing, man, because it's so funny, like that is, but that's a part that is intimate, like I heard that, like
very few people will experience that exchange.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always love those times. There's one about Cavaliers I'll have to tell you guys another time, but it's yeah, funny stuff.
Dude, that's awesome. I remember when we had vocals sometimes too, like we would have to like censor them, like, all right, Vic first shoot today, like we got to do like show B, we can't do the vocals from like the closer or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
So,
fun times.
I guess that brings up a good point too. You kind of alluded to it, but are there like some shows or some groups or some ensembles over the years, obviously a 20-year span, kind of putting you on the spot, that just like kind of stick out as not necessarily like the best, but are just shows that you remember really well, or it's like, oh, I just remember this moment, or I remember this ensemble, or this drum line, or this front ensemble?
Oh yeah, yeah. Every year. There's always, some special moments are out there, or groups that yeah, definitely. You want me to name some people?
Yeah, dude. You gotta run some legendary.
you don't have to.
Take it through like
We
the
can
early
keep moving.
2000s, like all those cadets lines and like 04
Yeah.
Vanguard and like
Yeah. I'll with that, obviously as I was coming up through the ranks, there are years that you might only have like 3 or 4 shows, you know what I mean? And so you just basically, whoever comes through where you are, and then as you start to develop and they tend to have a little more confidence with you, then you get to get out a little bit more. But yeah, man, like there's been some. I tell you what, there's been some groups that like maybe at the beginning of the season, you're like, oh boy, like and it's not gonna happen. I mean, like you're not prejudging or anything like that, but it's like they're really struggling, and then by the time they get to the end, you're like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? Like it's just those things happen. And then sometimes in June, man, it's like these guys are on fire already, and it's, they might be a little hard to catch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are some groups out there that I'll always remember. And maybe that's an off the record type of thing too.
I feel you. No, it's all
No
good.
worries. No worries.
On the flip side of that, you kind of talked about this a little bit, and I'm sure this happens during like critique and stuff where staffs would be like, hey, make sure you like catch these guys, or like, and I'm sure that was like a post-show / pre-show kind of thing. Like, oh, they're telling me this in critique, so next time I see them at a show, I need to kind of game plan like my evaluation to catch what they want me to catch. I want to give them the points that they want to get, and I want to catch the moments they want me to catch.
Right.
So have there been like a lot of those critiques where like, well, you didn't get this, you got to get out here next time, or like some people that were really like, come on, Mike D, we gotta give this for you, like you got to get out here.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And most of those times for me are on first reads, because you're just trying to figure it out, like if you hadn't seen anybody again, like before the fan network and before flow marching and all the rest of that stuff, you just kind of maybe had to go to a show and watch it, or the internet was, on its way up, but maybe you could catch something and be lucky. But most of the time it was just, drawing your roadmaps and talking to the staff and just, okay, I'll try to be there the next time, or if you saw it 2 nights in a row, that was good. And no, for me, it was good, like, okay, because I had fresh memory of it.
Sure.
But if I were to see you 4 weeks later, there's a lot of changes happening in between that time. It's like,
yeah,
all right, I'm here. Where you guys at? You're not over here right now, like, but yeah, the communication with the staff is always really important to the process, because you do want to give them credit for the things that they're looking for. And I always loved, when they come up and they, talk to you before the show or something like that, they'll come, hey, 3 minutes in, try to be over here with this, and the snares are blah, blah, blah are going to come right up to you, and you're going to see them here. And, so you just take those mental notes and you try to be in those places. And then, in the critique situation, I'll just say this, people are passionate about what they do. This is, and, you have to take it like that. You can't,
for sure.
You can't take it personal, because those guys are really fighting for their art. They're fighting for their kids. They've been out working 2 weeks in the sun, and, maybe for the past 2 days, they didn't get to do everything on their list. And, we still have to judge it. We still have to be in front of it. And, so frustrations do happen. People are human, and then, sometimes those frustrations come out and you're just like, okay, man, I'll try to be there for that the next time. Or yeah, you want to, you're looking for a little more credit here, or blah, blah, blah. And you can sense those frustrations, those are out there, most definitely. But, you hear the horror stories and, but those things typically don't happen, the people in your face, and at least that's never happened to me. But, guys are passionate, like they want to, everybody wants to be successful. I'll just say it like that,
I was talking to Fantini about that a little bit before we were able to link up with you. I was just like, yeah, man, like in critiques and stuff, I could see how that would be very like confrontational, or just like very chill, depending on like, because every group's gonna fight for their own teams. Yeah. Like you're talking about their own art, their own kids. Like, oh, we were doing this. Like, yeah, I got it. Like, yeah. And it's like almost never personal between them to you or them to the judge, but it's like always personal to them, just because it's like their baby. It's like, I got to take care of my baby. I want to make sure that I get my point across. And so
exactly. Yeah.
But,
and I think any judge, would take those things in and go, yeah, I hear you, and I'll my thing was always, I'll work harder at that the next time, the other thing that I think that some people need to understand is, this person, whoever wrote this show or designed this show, Well, they're on the road with it almost every day. They're spending 16 hours a day with this thing, with their baby every day. Well, I just lived with it for 11 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess through human nature, sometimes you're right. I didn't catch everything, and that happens. You know, I didn't get to this point, or I wanted to, and I was on this side of the field, and the snare feature was on the other side of the field. You know, like, I'm not Superman. I can't fly over there and get to that moment, but I'll be there tomorrow night, you know, or next time I see it, you know. And then there's that dialogue of, okay, well, just check that out and be where you need to be. You know?
When you were talking about changes a minute ago, it made me think like, yeah, if you were judging a show pre-Atlanta and then judged it post-Atlanta, I knew both summers that I marched after Atlanta, that's when we changed the closer or added the closer. So it just all changed after that.
Yeah.
It could change completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like, and I've had this thought, and I've said it on this podcast before too, and it has nothing to do with really judging other than like the reads that judges get, is that for arranging, and I think people are starting to do this a little bit more, is that simplicity is underrated, especially when you're asking an individual to hear it, understand it, credit it, and evaluate it like all at the same time, like boom, 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 like immediately. The kids are so talented these days, and they can do so much stuff.
They're amazing.
Kids are posting like YouTube and Instagram videos of like licks they create, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So like if I saw you play it, I don't even know what it is.
Right.
Which boils down to what we were kind of talking about earlier with the like learning and staying like a student of the game almost. But I think sometimes there's a lost under appreciation of like simplicity, like, and this kind of boils back to that Blue Coats video or Blue Knights video Mike and I just watched. Like sometimes they just take a simple triplet check and take it from the center all the way out to the edge. It's like, that was great, and I understood exactly what it was the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't envy judges from that aspect of like, well, you were standing in front of the front ensemble, but you didn't hear that they came in underneath what they were already given from the back 15-yard line. So I was like, yeah, that was my first read. I did not catch that at all.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't envy that aspect one bit.
Right. Yeah. First reads are toughest reads because you're just really trying to catch it all. But, you know, if you're lucky enough to see them, you know, a few more times throughout the summer, then, you know, you get to live with it too. You know, like you get to experience all the things that the kids are experiencing, and then you start to be in those spots that they want you to be in, and the kids know you're going to be in those spots, and then they're excited, and you're excited, and you know it's a fun time. It's the most exciting and the hardest thing I've ever had to do, especially when. And this is not only just drum corps, right? This could be in marching band, or it could be an indoor. Sometimes when you I've judged marching band shows. I'm doing percussion on marching band shows, and there's like 6 groups in a row that are all stellar, and you're just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. I have no idea. Like that group was really good. That group came on. They were smoking. Oh my god! And so obviously you look at the sheet, and then the sheet always asks the questions and the criteria and things like that, and then you arrive at your number from there. But sometimes it's very hard, sometimes it's especially when you get to championships time, because it's just like, that's the goal, and everybody's working to get towards that goal. And then there's some performance that maybe you didn't expect to pop out, and then there it is. And you're like, oh man, okay, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And, and it's, after that, you're nervous because everybody else is probably going to be just as good.
This reminds me of something that Evan and I have talked about before. You've judged quarterfinals before, right?
Mm-hmm. And semis. He had you guys on
I know,
semis, bro.
I know. Let me finish. So,
okay, I got you.
You've judged quarters, and Evan and I have always talked about, from the outside looking in our opinion, it just seems that quarters would be super tough in that regard, because there's so many world groups in a row that you do boom, 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 boom. Trying to accurately rank them just seems like massive task.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've judged marching band shows that 40, 45 groups in them. You know what I mean? And
I don't know how it's possible. For me,
Stick to the sheets, baby.
It's super kudos to anyone, to all you guys that do that, because it just seems extremely difficult to keep it all straight and accurately rank people.
There's a few things that go into that. Obviously, the sheets and the criteria and all the rest of that stuff, and then you have to be open to what might happen. Anything can happen. Yeah. Maybe you saw a group that's been smoking all summer, and they get to that day, and that's their bad day. You know what I mean? They just decide to. Maybe the kids are nervous. I mean, kids are human too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes people on the outside expect for these kids to be superhumans, and they go through things. Just broke up with my girlfriend in the color guard. I'm sad about that, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or, I didn't eat enough today, or, my mom and dad are here and they're on me about going back to school. You never know what's going on in their brains as well. But you have to be open, and one of the smartest things that I ever learned in our training is let the show come to you, and don't try to go out and get it. Don't try to force it. Just stand there and let it happen. It's just like watching a movie, right? You go to a movie or you watch a movie and you try to watch it without any expectations, and if it's a comedy, you're just going to be like, okay, hopefully it's going to make me laugh. And they made me laugh, or they didn't make me laugh today, or whatever. It's you just let it happen. You let it come to you, and that's how you basically get through a long day like that. You just, here comes the next one. Let's just see what happens, and then you assign your number, and it all hopefully shakes out in the end. It is a long day, though. It's a long day. Yeah. But that's the day that I also think, like, if you're looking at Lucas Oil, the groups haven't been in there all summer. So they're also kind of getting used to that day as well, getting used to the acoustics and blah, blah, blah. And then semis is also, I think that's probably more the tougher show to do, because now everybody's used to the environment. Now everybody's been in that place for a day. Now it's like, and especially if you're trying to make finals, if you're one of those groups that are down in that 12, 13, 14 range, you expect all those groups to bring it at that time, because they all want to get into the show, Saturday night. So you're a little bit more muscled up for that one, because it's, you
do or die time.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's probably going to bring it, and especially if there's a race at the top or something like that. It depends on how it's breaking down in the captions as well. Like in percussion, like there might be a race for the drum title, and you're that middle guy that's, okay, let's see what happens. You're either gonna
like call it to where no one else can win it, or you're gonna make it a photo finish on finals night.
Yeah. Let's see who's gonna come out and do what they need to do.
Show of the night.
Yeah, and then. And then you're in your neighborhoods, and there's battles everywhere. And so, you have to be on top of your game as much as you can.
That whole discussion reminds me of the 2012 season, because obviously, like, all three nights, quarters, semis, and finals, BD won all three nights in drums. But the way second, third, and fourth between Vanguard cadets and Bluecoats all played out was we all switched in the exact perfect amounts to where it was a three-way tie for second place in drums.
Wow.
When they average the nights.
Night?
Say
That's
what?
All that matters. Who was second on finals night? That's all you got to remember.
We were. But
there you go.
Like you said, show of the night. But I'm clearly biased. But I just never thought of that possibility of having like a three-way tie. Like it was that much of a dogfight between those three groups that summer.
And if I remember correctly, just going back to that time, I think I remember doing like Charlotte, North Carolina or something like that. And you guys are all in those shows and those Super 8 shows, as I call them, where it's, the big 8 teams and yeah, I mean, even in those shows, there was jockeying, like people were switching back and forth, and then, you're like, well, okay, we all got a week and a half to go, like, let's see who's gonna come and get it at the end, you know what I mean? Like, and then even, I remember that night. It was just like, okay, here it is, like, this is what it is. But I think, you have to make a call.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And those calls aren't going to always be widely accepted. It's just like, your favorite football team or your favorite basketball team, like, what? That was a travel? No way. Like, that ref's blind, like, I do it too.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is that judges are fans too. Like, we are probably as big as fans as anybody else. We, like, there's been plenty of times maybe I didn't judge finals night, but I certainly had my opinions about the outcome, but I'm also sitting up in the stands or in the booth, whatever, and listening to the show, and I'm not hearing everything that guy's hearing, but yeah, definitely. There's been some times I'm like, I thought maybe that group should have been here or whatever, like, we do the same things, but obviously we have no influence on that or anything. It's just that person's down there. They're hearing everything that they're supposed to hear, or they're down there in the trenches, and they made that call. I had another one of these podcasts with somebody, and I said the same thing, and I'll say this because I was laughing at you guys because I was watching you guys talk about the Blue Knights last week, and it's the same thing. Fans could judge, and for the most part, I think most of the decisions would probably come out to be the same way.
Yeah, we all have ears. No one's hearing different stuff.
Everybody's got ears, and you see the design of the shows and stuff like that, and you're looking at it, and you go, I think for the most part, if we were to give a fan a recorder and a sheet and go out there or judge color guard or judge whatever or judge brass, it'd probably come out to be pretty close, to what we have sometimes. And, everybody's a judge. All of us are, the only difference is we just, some people don't have numbers in their hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you read certain websites and you read certain chat rooms and things like that, everybody's a judge. Everybody's a critic. Like, oh, I thought so-and-so should have won. Well, I don't think they should have won. They didn't have this. They're blah, blah, blah. Didn't so-and-so. It's like, that's right. Like, I agree, and so, but I think it would come out to be right around the same call in most cases.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
Especially with like modern technology and what we're able, like, obviously there's going to be some level of nuance that you miss, but if I can sit here and watch a YouTube video in 4K with like the best audio available at the time, yeah, it's a lot video, but you can get a pretty good feel for what groups are doing. It's not always going to translate to what they're actually doing on the field, but I can assume if you have maybe like consistent issues in this spot in the lot, you probably have consistent issues on the field too. Moving around certainly not going to help your situation. So,
right.
But like you're saying, we're not out there. There's one guy on the field who's calling it, and we don't have the point of view and the vantage that he does. So you can't argue with it too much.
Yeah. I mean, you can argue with it, but it's not going to
do you any good.
Yeah. He was out there, and that's what he thought. You know what I mean? And then I think something else I think I need to touch on is the show is not in the parking lot. For judges, it's not in the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you get a lot of people that, oh yeah, like, I thought so-and-so's drum line was good. I watched him in the lot. Okay, great. You watched them in the lot.
Sweet.
Yeah, wonderful. but you didn't see when they were trying to do that backflip at the same time they were playing the tenor break. You know what I mean? You didn't see that, or when they're out trying to do all these crazy physical demands and they have these listening environments that are impossible, when they're standing in a line and they're playing through their book. Yeah, it's probably really good out there. But, when you add in those responsibilities and stuff, it's like,
when the quad line's 10 yards apart from each other over 50
exactly.
yards.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, those challenges come to play. Yeah, when those challenges come to play, it's different than it is in the parking lot. But
no doubt,
those are fans, and like I said, I'm a fan too. I see things, and I just go, wow, I think that's really cool what they're doing. I think that should be here, and if it doesn't end up there, I just look at it as, okay, I was a fan at that time, and that's the way it was.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
I think we've hit on everything. Evans, or anything we left off the list? Either you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
Probably nothing we can talk about on here.
Yeah, we might keep talking after this, but but all right, let's wrap this up. So thanks everybody for sticking around, checking out the podcast. Again, I'll reiterate, hopefully a little quicker, the spiel from the beginning of the episode. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Follow on Instagram and Facebook. All of it's just Aged Out Podcast. Check out the reaction videos, the clip videos on YouTube. Drop a like, drop a comment if you want to add anything to the conversation. Hit us up on patreon.com/Aged Out Podcast for financial support if you so choose. And Lone Star Percussion, discount code Aged Out, save $10 on any order of $50 or more. Go check them out, save a little bit of money, and we will see everybody next time.
Peace.